I would like to share with you a story. And don't worry, as I tell the story, I'm sure its relevance to the video title will become more obvious. This is a story of a family living alone who is at war with wolves. Dangerous creatures. They'll eat you if you go out at night. They'll hunt you in the dark. They'll devour your livestock. They'll show up and defile your home. Now, the first generation of this story is a man who grew up in a world that was absolutely filled by wolves. This is when the wolves outnumber people, and they're winning. He lives in a terrifying world, a very harsh world, and therefore, as a consequence, has become very harsh and cruel in order to survive. He fights these wolves with every fiber of his being, and as a consequence of fighting such a one-sided fight, in order to survive, becomes very cruel and very vigilant. Now, this man has a son. And by the time the son comes of age and can start helping his grandfather fight these wolves, the grandfather's great efforts have reduced the wolf population. They're no longer winning. They're being beaten back. They're not quite the threat that they used to be, but they're still very dangerous and they're still very terrifying. Now, this man is not quite as traumatized as his grandfather was, or his father. The reason being is because he had a guiding hand who had fought a much worse battle and was now helping his son through it. However, the man looks at his father and sees his father as being cruel and traumatized because the circumstances of his war produce such a man. And he swears to himself that his own child will not grow up in such harsh conditions. But the war continues. And by the time the third generation son is born, the wolves have been almost completely beaten back into their dark forests. You almost never see one. And any stories of the time when they were actually winning are half-remembered stories and far-off memories. Now, this man's son has never seen a wolf, simply because the previous two generations were successful in getting rid of them, so he doesn't take them as a very serious threat, and as a result, has no zeal or no vigil against them. Now, this is fine for a while, and the father decides that he doesn't want to take his son out into the world, or doesn't want to take him to the war because, well, the war's not nearly as bad as it used to be, he doesn't need the extra hand, and he doesn't want to expose his own son to the traumas that he was. And herein lies the problem. Because the wolves are never truly gotten rid of. You can never truly beat them into non-existence. They'll always be there on the edge. They'll always be there in the dark, just beyond the borders of whatever it is that you set up as your territory. So by the time the father, the second generation man, is no longer able to fight, well, the wolves start growing again. The third generation man never picks up the war because he sees no reason to. He doesn't ever remember a time when there were wolves. So by the time the wolves begin encroaching on the territory, he doesn't take it seriously. When they start moving into his lands, he doesn't know what to do. And by the time they're clawing at his door, he's helpless. So, you can map this onto any generational threat. You can map it onto a physical threat like countries who have been at war with each other for long periods of time. You can even map it onto metaphysical threats like the fight against lack of virtue, or the fight against evil, or the fight against decadence or deprivation. But it's just something to consider, because we're far past the third generation, and I can almost hear them howling. So, that'll be all for this video. I hope you all have a very nice day. And remember, even if you've never seen a wolf, they're still out there. Make sure you're prepared. And have a good one.